Hey, welcome back to the table. We're going to try to continue here. We spent a whole hour on just the Alemanni, but some of this was because we were doing the advanced combat. For me, that was the first time doing the advanced combat, making sure we had all the tables and checks right. So hopefully these next ones will go a little quicker. This next one here is the Frankie. Frankie, I don't know which of the two. I would call it the Frankie because we call them the Franks in our English terms. So they are located right up there in Germania. And let's take a real quick look at how they score their points. And remember, this is, excuse me, this is the red player. So red player can attack himself. The Romans are not considered allies to them at all. It's just that the red player, of course, you know, he's looking out for his own best interests. So what do we got here? We got, you know, obviously we have a setup here for turn one. There's no invasion per se. Invasion, in fact, doesn't occur until turn 6. And how do they score points? Each non-Frank unit eliminated in Gallia. So Gallia, of course, is different than Germania. So that would mean that, like, for example, if we wanted to attack the Alemanni there, that would be great, except some of those provinces aren't in Gallia. And I'll take a quick look here. Let's put it down and let's figure it out now. I know it's hard for you to see, but remember, it's those really hard to see hash lines. So like right here, it goes across. It looks like it goes right up this river here. So this would be the only thing that's in Gallia right now is this one Horde unit. And of course the Frankie can't really get there because they have to go through either the Romans or the Alemanni themselves to get there. Okay, so they get 5 victory points if they take Austrasia by turn 3. 3 victory points if they do Flandria. Now, they would like to create like a federati situation with the Romans. The Romans also would like to do the same. We just didn't draw the right diplomacy card to be able to pull it off. So they would end up attacking the Romans. And then, of course, the red player could choose to not intercept them, which would allow them to come through. But the problem with this is that if the Romans allow them to take the territory, the Romans can't control it as if it was their own territory. That's the problem. And what the Romans would like to do is give them the territory as a federati situation, thus allowing the Romans to still count that as their own territory for victory point purposes. Now, Andalusia is the same target as the Alemanni have, and I'm just trying to, the weird angle is because I'm trying not to bump the pieces on the board, and in fact I just did bump a bunch. Okay, so Andalusia, Austrasia is here, and then the Flandria is here. These are the two they want. And what's funny is that the empire controls the area as long as they control the cities. So Paris itself is a city. You know, this is a city here. And then, of course, there's that city there. So Rome really could give up these 2 spots to them. And technically speaking, Rome gets the points. However, I don't know if they want to do that this turn. So what else can they do? They can do a raid. Now, if they did a raid, who would they raid? They would raid Rome. And that's not necessarily helpful either. See, in our last playthrough, we made a federati, and that was the perfect situation for them. If we did a raid, I mean, you know what? We could just take those 2 provinces and then just make a kingdom out of them. And if we make a kingdom out of them, I'm thinking I'm thinking that that might be what we want to do. And the Romans still control the area. They're just giving up those 2 provinces. Yeah, let's do that. So this guy, of course, can campaign once, right? Because he has the little number 1 there. We're not really going to do that. We're just going to come in, take Austrasia with this and the Horde. And then we're going to come in and take Flandria with that one. Both of these will get destroyed, but they do both roll. And if I roll an even number, they're going to kill a unit. And they do. They kill 2 units, which, funny enough, the Frankie killed the two fort units. That's actually 4 points for red, because it's 2 points for red either way. The Frankie scored 2 points for red, and the Romans scored 2 points for red. That's sort of like insider trading, isn't it? But that's how this works. So 1, 2. All right, so the Romans are at 11 points right now. Frankie 2 and the Kasani are at 3, which that's what, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 16 points for red. Green has only 2 points, and yellow and blue have yet to make the board. I think that's sort of how this works. Like, red is like the superpower, and they have to get all their points early, and everybody else is trying to knock them out. It's an interesting game. I'll give it that much. All the different nations and whatnot are overwhelming, but it is a very interesting game. Okay, so I'm going to call that a wrap for the Frankie. And let's see. So if they convert to Catholic, they can get 2 victory points because they basically they control those 2 provinces. If they actually have a federati status, they get like 3 victory points every turn. So that really was the ideal situation if they could do that. So I know I keep harping on it, but that was not to be, at least not yet. Okay, so we're going to call that turn over. Oh, one thing that always hangs me up is the concept of moving the Horde. So the Horde moves, but it can't move as part of an attack action. So technically speaking, the Horde could not move along with the troops. So I probably got to leave the Horde behind. But that's what I'm looking up here real quick. Just give me a second. And like I said, it's a really annoying little thing. So it's a mobile capital. Does not stack. Barbarian reinforcements go where the Horde is. If you're raiding, it has to be within 2 provinces of the Horde. That's good to know. A Horde counts as a unit in defense only. It flees and retreats normally. It can't be eliminated in battle. It only submits. A Horde moves like an infantry unit only during an invasion. So otherwise it can only move by migration. And that's the point I was trying to get at here, is migration and invasion. We did have one invasion with the Frankie, so we could just say that it did it then. And because the red player controls everything, the red player would just let them take it as part of the invasion. So it told me to go to section 16G, and 16G doesn't exist. So, I'm sorry, 18G. So this is part of movement. Except during an invasion, a Horde can only move by migration. During an invasion, it can move freely like an infantry. So that's when we moved it. It's during the... Oh, that's right. This isn't an invasion. That would be a campaign. To migrate, the Horde moves together with all the nation's units and does not attack. Can't stack with anything else. which prevents it from moving during a campaign. So the Horde was not able to move for the Frankie. And it could have moved with the Alemanni because it was an invasion. But for the Frankie, it couldn't. So I'm going to put that there in Renus. And I think for now I gotta just leave it be. It's a weird rule because let's say I attacked it, well then it could just flee and retreat where everything else is. So very weird rule. Okay, Alemanni done, Frankie done, Ostrogoth. They're next. Okay, the Ostrogoth are blue. And we also have, I should have read the red rulebook. So we have the Goths here, and then I'm going to grab the Romans real quick because there might have been something about the Franks. So guard and Themata units must stay within their respective home entity controlled area. This is for the Romans. Britannia, from turn 4 onwards, if no Roman unit remains in Britannia except for the limitus, vassals, and federates, the area is no longer part of Western Rome, and the limitus counters are removed from play, and then Britannia forms. So that's a good thing, because Britannia is controlled by the red player. Rome and Byzantium are administered separately. Oh, look at this. At the beginning of the administration phase, Rome's treasury is adjusted according to its age. Only half of it's kept. We didn't do that. That is interesting. And that, I think, is only for Rome. Let's see if Byzantium has a weird rule like that. Rome had $6, by the way, at the beginning of the admin phase. Because remember, income occurs later. Ah, yep. Byzantium has the same rules. It's a little different, though. But it's got a similar type of rule, but it's a different table. Okay, well, Rome would have lost half of its money. So it was at 6, so it would have lost 3. So we're going to reduce them by 3 more. 1, 2, 3. That means it's going to lose half of this money too. So even though we're saving all this money, it doesn't do them a lick of good. That's a very interesting rule. A weird rule, if you ask me. But see, this is why it pays to look at this. Okay. The Usurper Calamity. Oh, there's one other thing we need to check. Rome beat back the barbarians how many times? Twice. There was a chance that Caesar would have, or the leader would have been killed or abandoned. So here, Rome may not abandon certain areas from turn 3 onwards. That can be abandoned as Africa, Britannia, one area per turn may be abandoned at the start of the administration phase. Consequences are the fleets are immediately moved to the closest province not in the abandoned area. For Britannia, the Britain Kingdom is created. And for Hispania, the Esculdun Kingdom is created. So Romans receive an immediate tribute of half money per province they controlled in the abandoned area. Roman player immediately receives half the VP worth of the abandoned area, which is the Roman Nations card, except when the abandonment triggers the creation of a client kingdom like the Britons. So if I did that to create the Britons, I would not get the VP, but I still get the money. So yeah, see, we didn't pay attention to this. We should have read this before. And then it keeps going, right? I mean, there's so much stuff, right? You got the Roman garrisons. You have the threat to Italia. So the Britain Kingdom is created when Britannia is abandoned, when Rome collapses, or on the reinforcement step of turn 5 at the latest. So let me look at the Britain Kingdom. So you can see here, this is the Britain Kingdom. Every turn they get points for killing Angles, Saxons, etc., and Picts. They don't really start scoring points until turn 6. So abandoning right away doesn't necessarily lead to a lot of points for them. At least not in the beginning. Now, they said that we could evacuate Spain and create the Escaldune. Let's see what that involves. Where the heck would that be? Are they a red player? I don't think they are. So we have Rome's successors. The Escaldunes are actually the yellow player. So that's not a good thing. If you abandon Spain, you basically give it to the yellow player. I'm not sure how exciting that would be for the red player to do. But I guess you get victory points and money. That would be why you would do it. Okay, so obviously there's a potential for collapse. Roman conscription, which we already talked about that one. You may only purchase a single unit. The Rome may recruit barbarian auxiliaries limited by their availability. So on turn 1, they can only have the Mauritanian, but on turn 2, they can get 3 from the Goth and 3 from Hyrule. So they can actually even take an auxiliary from Alemanni. So they can actually do quite a bit here and take units from non-red nations. And so let's see here. Starting with turn 4, a destroyed Lemus counter may be replaced during the purchase step, but it costs money. On turn 8, they cease to exist. The elites, they count as 2 elites for combat bonus. Remember, that's what we were doing. And if Rome has at least 4, they get a +2 combat bonus. We did that correctly. The Escaldune and Sarda kingdoms, they're inactive, owned by the Persia player, is created when Hispania is abandoned. The inactive is created on the turn after Roma is looted. So we can create Britain earlier if we wanted, and it actually starts with a treasury and everything. It would be a kingdom. The limitus and local Roman units are removed to the closest friendly province. Elite archer and fleet units cannot be purchased before turn 6. And so those are rules around Britain. The Mauritanian kingdom, it's a client of Rome, lends one of their 3 units to Rome as a mercenary. If a barbarian horde is in Africa and the kingdom is a Roman client, they do a D2 check to see if they revolt. So we got to remember that. There is no barbarian horde there, so we're fine for now. But then, of course, we can try to regain them. If they leave, they revert back. If Rome loses all control of all the cities, the Mauritanians immediately become a Roman client, even if a barbarian horde is present, but they no longer pay tribute. See, weird rules. I mean, there's so much to remember. If Arian or Christian barbarians enter Italia, the Romans may expel them on a later turn by federating them at the beginning of the barbarians' military phase activation. The barbarians may not refuse the foedus. If possible, this foedus should be in Gallia Meridionalis and preferably in the Aquitania and Garumnus provinces. So that's an interesting rule. I'm not sure I fully understand it, but it's only used once per game. So we can basically federate like the Alemanni if we wanted to. And lastly, there's the Roman garrisons. Units with an area name are automatically redeployed there. North and South Gaul and Gallia are treated as a single area when deploying. The Roman units are then automatically redeployed, Okay, we're good. I know it's not even the Romans' turn, but that was worth going through. And I know we're 20 minutes in and we haven't even finished. Okay, so we're on the Ostrogoths. The Visigoths have an invade on turns 2 and 3. On turn 1 only, Scythia is available to the Ostrogoths. So what is Scythia? That's the that whole steppe area there. See all the white terrain? That's all the steppe terrain. And the Ostrogoths, of course, are right here in Sarmatia. And if they wanted to go down and take Sevastopol, I can't remember what it's called on the game, they can try to control Sarmatia, and they actually would score points this turn. And they get a Renaissance if they conquered Sarmatia on turn 1. They're allowed a Renaissance on turn 6. They must be free if they were submitted, and it's a barbarian invasion. They get 5 extra units. They can lower their age by 3 spaces. And if it's a kingdom at a time, they can flip back to barbarian status. So that's the idea of the Renaissance, but you have to take Sarmatia on turn 1. All Goth units must be... So here, Emericus the Conqueror. This is the Ostrogoths here. On turn 1, the Ostrogoths can either conquer Sarmatia and its vicinity, gaining territory and loot, but leaving themselves exposed to the coming Hun invasion. Or migrate their horde, taking advantage of his stacking bonus of +2, but forfeiting the conquest gains. Okay? If we do conquest, the horde has to stay in Ukraine, which it is now. The Ostrogoths receive bonus VPs if they conquer their starting area and those to the west. So that's on the nation card. We did a little bit of this in the first playthrough, but we'll probably talk about this again. For each submitted nation, they gain an event card in addition to the treasury, and Conquest of Sarmatia allows them to do that Renaissance idea. So the thing that's weird about this is that if they stay, they're at risk of being destroyed by the Huns. And then it's also important to note that they may conquer Sarmatia this turn, but next turn they have to leave. So they're not allowed to stay in Sarmatia next turn. So that means the horde really would have to migrate. So it's a temporary thing to be able to stay in Sarmatia and conquer it. What else? There's the Great Invasion on turn 3, which we're not going to worry about yet. On turn 5, stuff happens with Britannia. And then turn 10. And then the Slavic tribes. These are the... So right there, Sevastopol, there's Ukraine. And then the Slavic tribes are all those little light blue markers way in the back there. There are 3 inactive. They're handled by the Roman player. These nations do not activate and do not move, except to flee. They each recover 1 lost unit per turn during the reinforcement steps, at the same time as the first barbarian nation. They can never transition to kingdom, and there is no point in tracking their treasuries. They cannot leave even by fleeing those areas. When in battle, those Slavic tribes lose a white die or get a -1 to their combat rolls, as they have no leaders. They never have rerolls unless an event is played on them to give them some. So it's interesting that this is written on the blue player card and not on the Roman player card, because they're controlled by the Romans, so you would think that these rules would belong to the Romans. But that's the reason why you got to read all these dang player cards. So, okay, well, let's try some stuff. I think we should try to conquer Sarmatia. Let's get some points, right? That's the whole point of this game, is to get points, pun intended. All right, and let's get the camera somewhere safe. All right, so what do? Well, we have a leader who's going to be able to do 3 campaigns. See that 3 there? So that means we can march everything. Normally there's a stacking limit of 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But he has a +1 on him, so he can add 1 more to the stacking limit. Yeah, that hurts. But the other thing about this is that even though they have the heavy marker, they're barbarians. They don't have heavy or elite. At least I don't think they do. Or is it just the elite? Oh, dang it. I think it's just the elite. The barbarians cannot have elite units. Yeah, elite units are considered standard. But they do have heavy units. Yes, those do count. So I think what I'm going to do then is I'm going to leave behind a regular infantry and take along the heavy units. Now here's the question. Just try not to bump things on the board. All I have is a Limitus and a city I need to siege. That's it. So it doesn't take much to take this area. So I'm thinking that I'm going to send my leader. I don't need to send my best units with my leader. I can have 4 units in a stack, right? So I'm going to send my leader 1, 2 to here. And we're going to try to take out this fortress and siege that city, okay? That's first thing. And then the second thing I'm going to do is we need to submit these Slavic nations in order to score more points. So I'm going to send this guy 1, 2, and we're going to try to attack this Venedidae tribe, which is in the Poland area, Polonia, and we're going to try to conquer it without a leader. And remember, if I can get that horde to submit, then I conquer the area. So that's what we're trying to do. And then that would, technically it would vassalize them, but I don't think they pay a tribute. So that's what we're going to try to do. And let's deal with this first. This has a lot of luck components to it, but let's give it a try. All right. So first things first, the Limitus is going to, if I roll an even, it's going to do a hit to us. I rolled an odd, so we destroyed the Limitus without even a punch back. So that belongs to the Byzantines, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the Ostrogoths scored 1 point. Okay, so now we have to siege this city, and the siege rules I think do change a little bit when you're in the advanced rules. And you can see that here. So the besieger gets +1 if it's a civilized besieger. It's not. These are barbarians. They get +1 assault if I'm willing to take 2 hits on my units. Remember, they recover 2 hits after the battle's over, so I may be willing to do that. -1 if it's a nomadic barbarian. I don't think that's the case with, nope, that's not the case with them. And then +1 if the besieged is in decline. This is the Byzantines. That's not the case. The fortifications are going to give them a -2. So the only reason to take the 2 hits on the units is to try to counteract that. And then -1 if it's turn 4 to 5. That's not the case. And if it's a harbor and there's a friendly fleet at sea. If I do an assault, I cancel that. But it is a harbor and there is a friendly fleet at sea. So it may be to my benefit to besiege. Now, I am going to check here, because you can see here that for advanced combat, so sorry, let me This is Advanced Combat Sieges, and then this is the, that's for the melee round. Let's see here. Oh, this is one thing that's important. The attacker could voluntarily retreat in melee round 2. I did not realize that, and my apologies. The Alemanni may not have had to take so many hits. Okay, so then it says you jump straight to recovery. And this is the part that I'm trying to look up. The siege occurs after recovery. So if you take the 2 hits during the siege, your units don't recover. So that's an interesting situation. I need to take this, or otherwise the whole point of this is well, it's pointless. So if I'm going to take 2 hits, yeah, I brought along 2 crappy infantry. I guess I could lose the 2 infantry. I don't even have the stack limit to take everything with me anyways. That's an interesting conundrum. But let's do it, I guess. And yes, you could see here, the Besieger takes 2 hits to receive the bonus. It's going to be -2. And then because we're going to take the assault ordered, we get a +1. And then we cancel their coastal city bonus. So that's worth it by itself, because we'd get a -3 to our die roll. And remember, our leader gets to do rerolls. And then, of course, we need to get a 7 or better to win. And we may loot the city. If we choose to loot it, you get a booty. You draw pillage markers equal to the city level, which could have events that happen. And we could remove the fortification of the walls and flip it to its non-fortified side. So those are all options that we have. Just wanted to go through those real quick. We need this to work, or otherwise this whole staying in and getting a renaissance and all that stuff just sort of disappears. So what's going on? Well, I chose to attack with 2 units, and if I take 2 hits, that means I have no units left. It's just the leader himself. So that would not be a smart move. And if I would have planned this game out a little better, I would have just taken another unit with me, which then hurts the chances of the other attacking party. Or I can just not take the 2 hits. Oh, dang it. I guess I'm not going to take the 2 hits. So let's say I do that. I think we agreed I'm getting a -3. -2 because of the fortified city, and then -1 because it's a coastal city that has a navy on the outside. And you can see that there. So a -3 to my die roll, and I need a 7 or better to hit. So I would need a perfect 10. That's the only way I can hit this thing and take this city. That is not good, folks. That's not good at all. Now, if I take 2 hits, then I cancel 2 of their subtractions. And then I would need an 8 to a 10 in order to... That's still bad odds. I do have, with the Ostrogoths, I do have this card that says, play during a battle. The target stack gains a +2 for its first battle round die roll. This is a siege. I'm not sure that's considered a battle round. It would be really nice to be able to use this, though. Let me check. I'm checking the rule book. See, because there's this thing called the archery round. There's the melee rounds. And I want to see, is there a siege round? Because if there is, then that's considered a battle round, right? That's my thoughts, at least. Sieges. They are their own section of the rule book. So it says a siege may be maintained after failing a first time by leaving a unit in the province. Then the leader is free to act elsewhere for the rest of the campaign. A siege die roll check will be made during each subsequent campaign of that leader this activation, even if he's not present. No rerolls, however. If unsuccessful by the end of the campaigns, the besiegers have to retreat. I have to get a perfect 10. That is so awful. This isn't a very high odds thing to do. But the ability to, in a leader's campaign, to keep a unit there, that means I get all my rerolls, which is 2. And then I would also get 2 more or 3 more rerolls because he has 3 campaigns. So I would get 5 chances to roll a 10. That's still not good odds. If I take the 2 hits, I'm only going to get that bonus for 1 of my rolls. Now a reroll would let me continue to get that bonus, which is good. So I could get that bonus 3 times if I take 2 hits. Oh my gosh, what a tough choice this is. And of course I'm 37 minutes in. So a couple of things that have crossed my mind while I'm doing this is that the leader might be eliminated. So there's this little quirky rule. If an end player is in decline, the leader is victor, do a D10 check. 8 or more, the leader is assassinated. So I'm going to just roll it twice for the Romans. I rolled a 9. Holy buckets, that changes everything. The Roman leader actually got killed. So this guy Julianus is dead. And that means that he wasn't there to defend that city the second time. And I don't want to retcon that whole thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give the Alemanni one of their units back. And we'll go ahead and put it here to protect the Horde. It's probably not a fair retcon, but that's the best I can do for now. Okay, so back to this dilemma. I think I need to take the 2 hits, which hurts a lot because I don't have a lot of units. But it means, though, I need to take a 3rd unit with me. So I'm going to take 3 units with me. These 2 units are going to take a hit, and they don't get recovered because sieges are after combat. So I'm going to do that to get, basically it's just a -1 now instead of -3. So I need a 7 or better normally, but since I get a -1, I need an 8 or better, and I'm going to get to roll 3 times. Now, if I fail after these 3 times, this leader is then going to go do a campaign and I can leave this guy behind, and he gets the campaign 3 times. So then this thing will get to try 3 more times, but then I would need a perfect 10 because I no longer get that bonus. So let's try. First try, I got a 9. Oh my gosh, did you see how that was on a 1 and then flip back over? All right, I got it very first try. So all that deliberation was over nothing. But, okay, so we successfully looted the city, and so, or sieged the city. So what happens? Well, let's pull this back up. Here we go. So now we get to loot the city. Pillaging nation gets a booty of 2. So the Ostrogoths. Oh. There's our money marker. They get $2. So I'll put that up there. Next. Draw as many pillage markers as the city level. The city level is a 1. And we're going to destroy the fortifications on this because since we're going to be abandoning this later, we might as well make it so it's harder on the Byzantines later. All right, so we're going to draw 1 pillage. And we drew. So we get another buck and we do event 51. And then this little pillage marker is going to go on the location. And we're going to have a unit there. Our leader I'm going to put back in Ukraine for now. But let's finish this out. We have to do 51. And then that's it. So let's look up event 51. A 100 million things on this table. So 51. So on the very last page. Revolt. Public. A randomly selected civilized nation suffers a revolt. Perform a revolt process and proceed. Ooh. Okay, so this is like a public event. So that's quite interesting. Okay, so on the back of one of these is the table for the revolt. I will find it someday. I think it's the Persians. Like this right here is an awesome set of tables. Look at that. This is for fleeing. That's for doing the siege resolution, the one we just did. And then down there is for that leader assassination that we just did. I mean, there's some really nice tables. You don't necessarily need the player aid. It's just the player aid puts it all in one place. Okay, so we need to do a random civilized area. So we're going to roll a d10, and we're also going to roll a d6. Even means it's a check. Yes. So I got basically it's a 10, 4. Okay, so the check is yes, and 10 means Hispania is getting the revolt. So I don't know what that means to get a revolt, but we're gonna find out, aren't we? Holy cow. All right, so let's see if our player aid has a section on revolts. I bet it does. There's sea movement and warfare, basic combat, advanced combat. You know, if they would have just picked one form of combat, the rulebook would be cut in half. Province and area control, diplomacy, There's 2 pages on that. Here we go, Revolts. So designate an area, we did that. We rolled the Hispania. Select the province in Revolt, not a province with capital or with a leader. The chooser places or increases a revolt marker in the province. A province in revolt becomes hostile. The owner loses the income from the province's revolt as well as the cities therein. A city in revolt is not eligible for commerce. The owner's expenses are further increased by 1 or 3 for each province in revolt. Revolt remains even if the province is conquered by another nation. No effect on, and then this is where the subduing part is in section 2. All right, well this is a relatively painless procedure. Let me find a revolt marker. I have like this, here we go. So this is a revolt marker, and you can see that there's a minus and a plus. And I think, you know, we need to start with the minus. And the blue player gets to pick, and because, you know, he's the one that won the siege. Hispania belongs to the Romans, and basically whatever city inside of it doesn't provide income. So I could put it right here where the military is, or I can just pick one of these other ones. This one, see, they don't get their income based on these red numbers, so it's not as important, but I'm going to go ahead and put it here in that province. So the Romans have a revolt in Hispania they have to deal with. Okay, fair enough. Oh man, there's so much to this game. All right, so we did that. We pillaged. We took everything. We technically have Sarmatia conquered. So now we got to resolve more battles. So we're going to do the regular battle without the leader, and then we get to do 3 campaigns. Remember, we get to do 3 campaigns. So yes, these barbarian nations are taking forever. Technically speaking, I think they would be a little bit quicker once you have the rules down. And I know some of you have made comments to that order that this isn't really that bad once you get the hang of it. But man, oh man, there's a lot to get a hang of. Okay, so this guy doesn't participate in the battle. He just submits. So we have to hit these 2, and then if he's the only one left, then we conquer that area as well. Okay? So this time, though, I am going to use this to get a +2 to my die roll. I don't have a leader here, so I'm going to do this to get the +2. So I am going to use the event, and so that's done. And we're going to roll 2 d6s, and I don't know where. Oh, it's on the board. Okay, so this is the attacker. We do get a heavy bonus. Okay, and we also have cavalry, so we get the cavalry bonus as well. We are attacking from a swamp into a forest. So let's see. Was there a ridge or a river crossed? Well, yeah, but not to attack this particular area. So I think we're not going to count that. Is it versus barbarians in a forest? Are they considered a barbarian? They're considered a kingdom. So no, they're not barbarians. So, and it's definitely not barbarians versus civilized and a barbarian. Oh yeah, it is. So barbarians versus civilized in a barbarian area. So +1 for them, +1 again for cavalry, and then a -1 to them because of the heavy. All right. So +2 is their bonus, and then the card gives them +2 more. So I rolled a 7. Okay, I know that's hard to see on the camera. So a 7, and I have 3 attacking units. And if you go to 7, it's 1.5. That does not get rounded up. So this hurts. 1.5 only hits 1. So he's out. But now they do get to attack back. So we're going to roll for them. And oh my gosh, I rolled a 2. That's the lowest you can get. And there was only 2 units in the battle. So yeah, that was 0 hits there. Even if you count that Horde, that would have been 0 hits. I don't think you do count the Horde. But I just realized there's a second round of the battle. So we're going to get a +2 now. +1 for the cavalry. And +1 because it's a barbarian versus civilized in a barbarian area. These guys are considered civilized, right? Let's look real quick. See, these are kingdoms. Kingdoms are civilized. So yeah, they are. I mean, they are Slavic tribes. So I mean, I think that's just religious symbols. And it does tell you to look at the Goth player aid. You know what? It has a Horde, so it's a barbarian. So it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the last roll, but we're only going to get a +1 to our die roll. So these guys are considered barbarians, and since you're attacking a barbarian in a forest, they actually get a -1. It still would not have changed the last outcome because you could have rolled as low as a 5 and still did 1 hit. But that's what we're doing here. So they get a +1 for the cavalry advantage, but a -1 because it's a barbarian in a forest that they're attacking. These guys are considered barbarians in a forest. And they're barbarians because of the Horde. So that's the ultimate verdict on that. I'm looking. Just trying to make sure there wasn't any other thing I'm missing. No, there isn't, so let's roll. So I rolled a 6, and if we go here, a 6 with 3 units is 1 hit, and that is enough to submit them. We do get to roll for them, and I rolled an 8. He had 1 unit. He does have to subtract 1 because of the heavy advantage. But even a 7 with 1 unit does 1 hit. And I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, so they're going to do 1 hit back. So this guy gets hit, but 2 get recovered at the end of the battle, so they're fine. However, the red player actually scores a point for that. So because these guys are controlled by the red player, and you know what? It doesn't show victory points for those. So no, they don't get a victory point for that. So anyways, they did a hit and it gets recovered. These guys do submit. So they're now considered a vassal, if you will, of the Ostrogoths. And I don't know how to signify that on the board, but basically these guys are submitted now and belong to Ostrogoths. But they're not going to pay any money or anything, but the territory will count. Okay, so we successfully took 2 of the areas. So now we come back. Remember, the leader gets to pick up all the units and go anywhere where there's friendly territory. And so we're even going to pick up this this infantry that we left way down in Sevastopol. And we get to do 3 campaigns. So the first campaign, of course, is going to be up against this here. And it's just the Horde with 1 infantry. And, you know, the thing is can they intercept? You would think they could. But I don't think they do. Because it says they don't move. They do not activate and do not move except by fleeing. Okay, so they can flee. So if we moved in there, they get to choose to flee. So they can choose to flee all the way back to here, which would then let them have the best possible odds of winning the battle, right? The other thing you can do is, if you choose not to flee and you force them to battle, they would have to move through you and basically do, in order to get to Balticum, like there's 2 ways to look at this. This gives you the best battle chances, but if they would just hold their ground, then these units would have to, first we'd have to take this horde, and then I guess, you know what, technically we can go through here and then campaign into Balticum that way and just bypass around them. So I take that back. This is the only option that works. Okay, so I want you to know they have 3 units, and then we also have 1, 2, 3, 4 units. We have the cavalry advantage, we have the heavy advantage. So it's 4 versus 3, and we actually get 3 re-rolls because of our guy. So now we're cooking with Pam. All right, so let's roll. We rolled a 5. I'm gonna go ahead and use one of my re-rolls. And I rolled a 5 again. I'm gonna use another re-roll. And I rolled a 7, okay? I like the 7 better than the 5. All right, so first things first, there's no marsh or strait. There was no ridge or river crossed. We do lose 1 because we're fighting barbarians in a forest. We gain 1 because of the cavalry advantage. So basically it canceled itself out, and then they're going to get a -1 because of the heavy advantage. So that 7 holds. And like I said, we have 4, 7. It's only 1 hit on them. That's not good. That's not good at all. They have 3 units. So they're going to roll with their 3 units. And they rolled a 5. They get a -1. So it's a 4. And they get a half, which does not round up because it's not clear desert or steppe. Okay, so we're campaigning again. I'm sorry. We're in round 2 of the melee. So we roll, and remember we still get 1 more reroll, and that's an 8. And I think we agreed that our pluses and minuses worked out where, so we got a minus because of this, but we got a plus because of that, so it all balances out. And 8 with 4 units, I think we just did this, or no, that's 2 hits. Did I have an 8 last time? I was looking at the 3 unit column, wasn't I? That's 2 hits. Well, that's enough to win. So even if the first battle I did wrong, that's enough to win. So let's just let them roll now. And remember, they get a -1, but they rolled a 12. Holy buckets. They only have 2 units. They rolled a 12, but they get a -1, so it goes to 11. That's 1 hit on us. But remember, we recover 2 deaths at the end. So, but so do they. So this 1 unit is going to die for now, but we just conquered another one. And now he gets to do another campaign. So we're gonna swing around this way and campaign into Balticum, which he's going to retreat and have 3 units here. So we're gonna try to see if we can take Balticum, and then that would complete the Goths campaign, which is actually quite awesome. We're doing very well here. All right, it's gonna be the same deal. We're gonna get a +1 and a -1. They get a -1. That's a 9, which is gonna be very good. 9 is 2 hits, that's solid. I'm gonna take that, so that's 2 of their 3 dead. They roll, and they got a 7, and they have 3 units. That would be 1 hit on us. I could make them re-roll, but yeah, I'm gonna make them re-roll. They got a 5 with 3 units. That would be 1 hit, but remember, we forgot that they actually get a -1, so that's no hits. So that was actually worth doing. So everything's going right for the Ostrogoths right now. And now we're on to round 2. They only have 1 unit left alive. We rolled a 7. That's more than enough to kill him. And then he's going to roll a 7. And we could make him re-roll. Oh gosh, that's an 11. We'll make him re-roll again. That's another 11. So with his 1 unit, he does hit us once. But like we said, we get to recover 2. So we've successfully conquered them all. This guy goes there. I think the only thing that maybe we could have done differently is that this guy would have retreated, and I'm not sure that the first set of attackers would have won. But just so you understand, this guy gets 3 campaigns. We did 1, 2, we still had 1 more campaign, so he could have easily come in and finished this one off with his 3rd campaign. All right, so we're done with the campaign, so everybody's gonna come back to the Horde capital, and that's where they stop. Or maybe they're in Balticum, I don't know. But I think they do return back. I can look that up, probably between videos because we're at an hour. But let's finish up point scoring, and then I will look up what happens at the end of the campaign. Do they come back to the Horde, or do they stay out in the middle of no man's land? Well, actually, he gets a 3rd campaign, so he would just choose to do a 3rd campaign and just start where the Horde is and stay there. And because of the campaign, he cannot take the Horde with him, so he can't migrate. The Horde has to stay there in Ukraine, so he's staying there with them, and that's... So he lost 2 units in order to take Sevastopol, but beyond that, that was actually textbook. Very well done. All right, so what does that mean? Well, we got all kinds of stuff going on here. First of all, victory points. 1 for each non-Goth unit eliminated, okay? So the Ostrogoths, we gave them 1 point for the Byzantine Limes, but they killed 2 from the first Slavic tribe, and then 3, and then 3. So 3, 6, 7, that's 8 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so they're at 9 total points there. And then each turn they're under a fetus, and then per income for Catholic. We're not doing any of that. On turn 1, they get 4 victory points each for Balticum, Barbarum, and Sarmatia. So that other one that we took actually didn't even matter. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. So there's only 3 of them. So 4, 8, 12. So they get 12 more points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. Oh my gosh, that's what, 5, 10, 15. They got 21 points so far. That, I think that was a good turn for blue, if you ask me. 21 points. Now, here's the thing that keeps getting brought up in the rules. See, this says turn 1, right? And the designer, he made a decision, and it's in the victory point clarifications, okay? He just made it like yesterday or today. And he said that if it has a turn number, it is done at the end of the turn, okay? But the rules are very clear that you do not have control over a region if there's 2 Horde markers. And there is that little beige-looking tribe there is going to migrate right into Sarmatia and prevent them from scoring for Sarmatia. And elsewhere, the developer said that does not prevent the Ostrogoths from scoring, because they would do that scoring at the end of their turn. So that drives me nuts. So which one is it? Do they get the 4 points for Sarmatia or not? I'm going to say yes, they did, and that's how we're going to play the game. So we'll score their points at the end of their turn, not at the end of where phase 4 is. It makes no sense, and like the person said, whoever controls this particular tribe, which by the way is this Alani here. So if we were to take the Alani turn, and let me show you, it's going to be real easy. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to migrate into Scythia, and then that Horde token is going to be right there in Sarmatia, preventing them from having control of Sarmatia, which was the whole point of the Ostrogoths. Now, it does say for each submitted nation, so yeah, they're supposed to get an event card in addition to the treasury share, so I forgot about that. If they conquer their starting area and those to its west, For each, they gain an event card in addition to occasional treasury share, and Conquest of Sarmatia allows for a Renaissance. So, yeah. All right, so we, 3 nations submitted. So they're going to draw 3 events. And what do they get? Bad omens on a stack of at least 3 units. 2 of the target units randomly chosen won't fight. Oh, that's pretty good. Treason. Played during a siege. May not be played during a siege of Constantinople. Target nation gets a +3 bonus. That's also very good. And expert navigation. During an amphibious landing, purchase a step. The target land and naval stacks gain a +2 bonus to their sea risk die roll. We haven't done much with the sea, so I don't know. I'm sure that's a very valuable card. I just haven't bothered with the sea rules yet. So all 3 of those go to the blue player. And yeah, so we're at an hour. We have gone through 3 of the barbarians. It took us an hour to get through the first one, and then another hour to get through the next 2. But we also did a lot of reading about the Romans and fixed a Roman issue. We still have the Visigoth. I've actually already taken their turn because the Visigoths and them aren't in conflict. So technically we only have 1 barbarian left, and then we will have the 2 empires and kingdom left, which isn't going to be a trivial turn either. But the Romans lost their leader. That hurts a lot. So the fact that their leader died and was assassinated is a very big deal, largely because they're not going to get the rerolls and stuff like that and the big bonuses. But yes, thanks for watching. Stay awesome, stay healthy and safe. And yes, I wanted to read up the rules on what happens at the end of a campaign, so I will do that in between. Thanks for watching.